I was carrying a bottle of champagne in one hand and my mother's favorite white lilies in the other when I heard her laugh through the half-open kitchen window. Have you ever given years of your life to your family only to find out they plan to take it all from you? I still can't believe Alicia actually paid for all of this. I smiled for a second. Then my sister answered, she's always wanted to be the hero. Let her enjoy it. By tomorrow, the house will legally be mine anyway. My footsteps stopped. The champagne almost slipped from my hand. Inside, my father chuckled. Don't tell Alicia until after closing. Once the paperwork is recorded, there's nothing she can do about it. My heart slammed against my ribs. My mother laughed again. She'll never know she bought a retirement home she doesn't own. Every sound around me disappeared. The birds, the traffic, even my own breathing. 7 years. 7 years of skipped vacations. 7 years of working weekends. 7 years of saying no to every luxury because I wanted to surprise my parents with the retirement they deserved. And they had spent all that time planning to hand everything to my younger sister. I stood frozen behind the window clutching flowers that suddenly felt heavier than bricks. Then my sister spoke again. Vanessa Parker, owner of a $600,000 bonus, every overtime check, I mentally divided it before it even reached my account. A portion for retirement, a portion for emergencies, and another portion for what I secretly called Mom and Dad's new beginning. No one knew about the fund, not even my best friend, Jasmine. Especially not my family. I wanted the house to be a surprise. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't the only one keeping secrets. About a year before everything fell apart, my parents started complaining more often about their old house. The roof leaked every time it rained. The plumbing seemed to break every other month. Mom's knees hurt whenever she climbed the stairs. Dad constantly talked about how tiring it was keeping up such a large property. I don't know how much longer we can do this. Mom sighed one Sunday afternoon while we were having lunch together. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You won't have to forever. She smiled at me. At the time, I thought it was thanks. Now I wonder if it was hope for what was coming. Vanessa, on the other hand, couldn't have cared less about the old house. She rarely helped with repairs. She still lived 20 minutes away in a luxury apartment she definitely couldn't afford on the salary she claimed to make as a social media consultant. Every few months there was another crisis. My car needs repairs. My landlord raised the rent. My laptop died. There was an issue with my taxes. Every emergency somehow ended with me sending money. She always promised to pay me back. She never did. Mom would always defend her. Your sister is still finding her way. She's under a lot of pressure. You're older. You understand. I did understand. Or at least I thought I did. Whenever I questioned it, guilt found me before logic did. Family helps family. That's what I've been taught my whole life. 3 months before the scheduled closing, I finally showed my parents the retirement house. Mom burst into tears the moment we stepped inside. Oh, Alicia. She whispered, touching the kitchen island. You bought this for us. I nodded. You both spent your lives taking care of everyone else. It's your turn now. Dad hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. I don't know what we did to deserve a daughter like you. Vanessa stood near the living room windows, slowly looking around. Instead of thanking me, she asked a question that seemed odd at the time. So, whose name is going on the paperwork? I laughed. My parents, of course. She simply nodded. Oh. Just one word. Then she smiled. A small smile. One I couldn't quite read. If I had trusted my instincts instead of my heart, maybe everything would have ended differently. Over the following weeks, strange little things started happening. Mom suddenly wanted to handle talks with the realtor herself. Dad insisted I didn't need to attend every meeting. Vanessa somehow knew details about the purchase that I hadn't shared with anyone. I brushed it all off. They were excited. That was all. Or so I believed. Then, 2 weeks before closing, Mom called me. "Honey, could you email me the purchase documents again? The lender needs to check something." I didn't think twice. I forwarded everything. Every estimate. Every update. Every financing document. Every timeline. She thanked me over and over. "You've always been so organized," she said. "I don't know what we'd do without you." Hearing those words made me smile. Now they make me sick. The morning of the housewarming arrived bright and warm. Closing was scheduled for the following day. I picked up Mom's favorite flowers, bought an expensive bottle of champagne, even stopped at a bakery for the chocolate pecan pie Dad loved. As I drove toward the new house, I kept imagining their faces when I handed them the keys. I thought this would become one of the happiest memories of our lives. Instead, I parked in the driveway, walked toward the side entrance, and heard my own family laughing about the fact that I had just spent nearly $600,000 to buy a house they never intended me to have any claim to. I didn't go inside. Not right away. I walked back to my SUV before anyone could notice me standing outside the kitchen window. The flowers, the pie, the champagne. I placed everything on the passenger seat with shaking hands. Then I shut the door and locked myself inside. For several minutes, I couldn't move. I just stared through the windshield at the beautiful house I'd spent nearly 2 years searching for. White stone exterior, wide front porch, blue shutters my mother had once pointed to in a magazine and said, if I could ever choose my dream house, it would look exactly like that. I'd remembered. Apparently, they remembered something else. How easy I was to control. I replayed every word I'd overheard. "Don't tell Alicia until after closing. She'll never know. Vanessa will own the house." Those weren't jokes. People don't whisper legal plans as jokes. I reached for my phone and opened my email. The purchase folder was still there. Every document, every receipt, every inspection report, every update. I began scrolling. Purchase agreement, home inspection, appraisal, insurance papers, loan documents. Nothing looked unusual. Then I remembered something. The title company had sent a draft of the closing paperwork the previous week. I searched for the email. There it was. Early closing package. I opened the file. Page after page of legal language, holding instructions, property taxes, transfer fees. I skimmed until I reached the ownership section. My heartbeat slowed, then sped up so hard I thought I might pass out. The buyers listed weren't my parents. Not exactly. Franklin Parker, Lorraine Parker, Vanessa Parker. My name wasn't there. Not once. I checked again. Maybe I'd missed it. I hadn't. The woman paying nearly $600,000 wasn't listed anywhere on the ownership documents. I stared at the screen. How? How had I missed this? Then I realized the truth. I'd never actually read that section. I trusted my parents, trusted the lawyer they recommended, trusted the process, trusted family. My phone buzzed. Mom. I let it ring. Then another call. This time from Dad. I ignored that one, too. A text appeared seconds later. "Where are you? Everyone's waiting." I typed a reply. "Running late. Work emergency. I'll be there soon." I hit send. Right away another message arrived. "Don't worry. Take your time." For the first time in my life, those 4 words felt scary. I needed facts, not feelings, not guesses. Facts. I searched my contacts until I found the escrow officer assigned to the purchase, Olivia Simmons. She answered after the second ring. Good afternoon. This is Olivia. Hi, Olivia. This is Alicia Parker. I'm the buyer for the Hawthorne Ridge property. Oh, yes. Good afternoon, Miss Parker. Her voice was calm, professional. I had a quick question. Of course. I was checking the early documents and I noticed something confusing. What seems to be the issue? The ownership section. A short pause. Yes. My name isn't listed. Another pause, longer this time. Then she said something that made my stomach tighten. That's correct. I sat upright. I'm sorry, what? The deed instructions we received said that title will transfer to Franklin Parker, Lorraine Parker, and Vanessa Parker. I closed my eyes. So, the person sending the funds doesn't automatically become an owner. Not always. She spoke carefully, choosing every word. The buyer providing the funds and the people taking title can be different, as long as the deal is properly allowed. My mouth felt dry. And who allowed that? I'm afraid I can't talk about private instructions over the phone. Of course she couldn't. I understand. I took a slow breath. I have one more question. Go ahead. Has the deal closed? No. That single word sent a spark of hope through me. No. The closing meeting is set for tomorrow morning. I gripped the steering wheel. What about the wire transfer? We've received word of incoming funds, but final release hasn't been completed. I frowned. What does that mean? It means the holding account is still open. Holding account still open. So, ownership hasn't moved yet. Not yet. And nothing has been filed with the county. Correct. I swallowed hard. So, the property doesn't legally belong to anyone yet. I'm limited in what I can say, Olivia said gently, but as of this moment, the deal has not been finished. I thanked her and ended the call. For the first time since overhearing my family, I could breathe. Barely. But I could breathe. There was still time. Not much. Less than 24 hours. But enough. If I acted smart, not with pure emotion. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Vanessa. Seriously. Mom's crying because you haven't shown up yet. Seconds later, another message. Don't ruin today. I stared at those words. Don't ruin today. The irony almost made me laugh. She had no idea. Today was already ruined. For all of them. I started the engine. Not to drive to the house. To drive somewhere else. There was only one person I needed to speak to before making another move. A real estate lawyer. Because if my family wanted to play games with legal paperwork, they had picked the wrong woman to underestimate. The law office was only 15 minutes away. It felt like 2 hours. Every red light gave me another chance to think. Another chance to tell myself I'd misunderstood. Maybe my parents had a good reason. Maybe Vanessa's name was there for a short time. Maybe. No. I cut the thought off before it could comfort me. People with honest plans don't whisper, don't tell her until after closing. They don't laugh about someone paying for a house they'll never own. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, my hands had finally stopped shaking. Replacing the panic was something colder. Determination. Marcus Ellis greeted me with a firm handshake. He looked to be in his mid-40s, dressed in a navy suit with silver-framed glasses. What can I help you with today, Ms. Parker? I slid the purchase documents across his desk. I need you to tell me if I'm crazy. He smiled politely. I hear that question more often than you'd think. For the next 15 minutes, I explained everything. The retirement house, my years of saving, the overheard talk, Vanessa's name on the deed. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. First, he tapped the paperwork. "You're not crazy." A small wave of relief washed over me. Second, he flipped through the closing package. "If everything you've told me is true, someone carefully set up this deal so you would provide the purchase money while other people received ownership." I stared at him. "So they planned this?" "It certainly looks planned." The words hurt more than I expected. Not because they surprised me, because hearing a stranger confirm it somehow made it real. "What can I do?" Marcus folded his hands. "That depends on one very important question." He looked directly at me. "Have the funds been released from the holding account?" "No, they close tomorrow." His face changed. For the first time since I'd arrived, he smiled. "Then your family celebrated too early." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "It means you still have choices." For the next half hour, Marcus explained the closing process in plain English. The money sitting in the holding account still belonged to me until the deal was finished. The deed hadn't been filed. Ownership hadn't moved. Nothing was legally complete. "If you believe the deal was obtained through lies or planned deception," he explained, "you have every right to pause the closing while the matter is looked into. So, I can stop it. You can tell the holding company to hold the money while lawyers review it." I let those words sink in. Hold the money. Pending review. It sounded almost too simple. "My parents are going to hate me." Marcus gave me a look I'd never forget. "They weren't worried about that when they decided to take from you." Silence filled the office. Then he added quietly, "Miss Parker, kindness isn't a contract that gives other people permission to use you." I looked down at my hands. How many times had I ignored clear warning signs because I didn't want to believe the people I loved could betray me? Too many. As Marcus prepared the paperwork, my phone buzzed again. Mom. Ignored. Dad. Ignored. Vanessa. Ignored. Finally, a text appeared. "Where are you? Everyone's asking questions." Another one arrived right away. "Mom hasn't stopped crying." I almost answered. Then I remembered hearing her laughing through that kitchen window less than an hour earlier. Those tears weren't for me. They were for the money they thought was slipping away. Marcus handed me several documents. "If you're ready, sign here." I didn't hesitate. For the first time all day, my signature was protecting me instead of someone else. He scanned everything and right away sent the legal notice to the holding company. Then he picked up his phone. "I'm calling Olivia myself. You know her. We've worked together for years." He stepped into the hallway. I could hear only pieces of the talk. "Yes. Possible fraud. Freeze everything. No money release until further notice." When he returned, he nodded once. "It's done. What happens now?" "The closing cannot go forward until the dispute is settled." A breath escaped my lungs. Not relief, not yet, but hope. Real hope. As I gathered my papers, Marcus asked a question I hadn't expected. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Is this the first time your family has asked you for a large amount of money?" I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. "No." "Tell me." So I did. I told him about Vanessa's endless emergencies. The car, the apartment, the business idea that never happened, Dad's strange back treatments, Mom's requests to help relatives. Every story, every transfer, every excuse. Marcus listened quietly. Then he asked, "Have you ever added it all up?" I frowned. "No. I think you should." "Why?" "Because I don't believe this house is the first betrayal." I froze. The room suddenly felt smaller. He was right. If they were willing to take a $600,000 house, What else had they already taken? That question stayed with me the entire drive home. I opened my laptop before I even changed out of my clothes, logged into my bank account, selected transaction history, date range, 7 years. Then I typed 3 names into the search bar. Lorraine Parker, Franklin Parker, Vanessa Parker. The first page loaded, then the second, then the third. Transfer after transfer after transfer. I reached for a calculator. Halfway through adding everything together, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The retirement house wasn't the first time I'd paid for my family's dreams. It was simply the biggest. Everything before it had been practice. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, because I couldn't stop adding numbers. Transfer after transfer, wire after wire, checks, cashier's checks, Venmo, every emergency, every loan, every favor, every promise to pay me back. By 2 a.m, I finally had a total. $214,870. I stared at the calculator. Then I started over. The number couldn't be right. It had to be a mistake. I checked every transaction again. No, it was right. Over 7 years, I'd given my family almost $250,000. The retirement house wasn't a single betrayal. It was the big finish. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. Suddenly, memories I had once treasured began playing differently. The Christmas when Dad insisted they didn't need gifts because times were hard. A week later, Vanessa posted photos from a luxury ski resort in Colorado. Mom had told me a cousin paid for the trip. Now I wasn't so sure. The year Vanessa called me crying because her car had supposedly been taken back. I'd sent her $12,000 before lunch. 2 months later, she'd shown up driving a brand new luxury SUV. She claimed she'd won a settlement. I believed her because I wanted to. There was always a story, always a crisis, always a reason. And somehow, I was always the answer. At 8:30 the next morning, Marcus called. "Good morning, Alicia." I was already awake. I figured. His voice was calm. "I wanted you to know the holding account has officially stopped today's closing." I exhaled slowly. So they know. They know something is wrong. What happens now? They'll arrive expecting to sign paperwork. And then? They'll be told the funds are not available. I couldn't help smiling. For the first time since yesterday, I wasn't imagining payback. I was imagining consequences. Marcus continued, "I'd like you to be there." "You think I should go?" "I do." "Why?" "Because people who spend years controlling someone rarely admit the truth unless they're forced to." He paused. "And today, they'll be forced." Before leaving my apartment, I opened my banking app one final time. I moved every remaining dollar from my everyday checking account into a new account Marcus had told me to open the previous afternoon. Different bank, different login, different debit card. Then I turned off every automatic transfer connected to my parents or Vanessa. Emergency access, shared payment apps, even the grocery delivery account Mom occasionally used. One by one, I closed every door into my money. It wasn't payback. It was a boundary. One I should have set years ago. My phone vibrated. Mom calling. Decline. Dad calling. Decline. Then Vanessa texted, "Where are you? Closing starts in 30 minutes. Another message appeared almost right away. "Mom says she's sick from all the stress." I stared at the screen. Yesterday, she was laughing. Today, she was sick. The act had already begun. I didn't reply. The title company's meeting room was exactly as I remembered. Large windows, polished wood table, coffee station in the corner, stacks of neatly organized folders. When I walked in, my family hadn't noticed me yet. Mom was looking at the backyard through the windows. Dad was chatting with the real estate agent. Vanessa was already taking selfies. I watched her angle the phone just right. She laughed. "Oh, this lighting is perfect." Perfect. She was recording a house she believed would belong to her in less than an hour. Marcus quietly stepped beside me. "You ready?" I nodded. "I am now." Olivia entered carrying a thick folder. Everyone took their seats. "Good morning," she said in a professional tone. "Before we begin." She looked down at her notes. "I'm afraid there's been an unexpected change regarding this deal." Vanessa frowned. "What kind of change?" Olivia looked around the room before speaking. "The holding account funding this purchase has been placed under a legal review." Silence. Mom blinked. "I'm sorry. What does that mean?" Dad asked. "It means today's closing cannot go forward." Vanessa laughed nervously. "There must be some mistake." "I'm afraid there isn't." Olivia folded her hands. "The buyer has formally questioned the deal." Mom slowly turned toward me. Her smile disappeared. "What buyer?" Olivia answered before I could. "Ms. Alicia Parker." Every face in the room changed. Confusion. Then panic. Then fear. Vanessa stood so quickly her chair scraped across the floor. "What did you do?" I looked directly at her. For the first time in years, I smiled. "I started reading the paperwork before signing away my future." If you've ever found the truth just before it was too late, let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying stories where control meets accountability, subscribe because the biggest reveal is about to change everything. I reached into my bag, not for anger, not for payback, for a folder. Inside were 7 years of bank statements, 7 years of receipts, 7 years of sacrifices, and I was finally ready to make my family explain every single dollar. The room fell completely silent. No one moved. No one even looked at the paperwork anymore. Every eye was on me. Mom was the first to recover. "Alicia," she said softly as if I were the unreasonable one. "What is this? Why would you do something like this?" I looked at her for a long moment. Then I asked one simple question. "Would you like me to answer that or should I play the recording?" 3 faces, 3 completely different reactions. Dad's eyes widened. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Mom's smile disappeared. Marcus looked at me. "You have a recording." I nodded. I didn't record the talk myself. That much was true. I started recording voice notes for myself after I walked back to my car because I couldn't believe what I'd heard. As I stood outside trying to process everything, I accidentally captured part of their talk through the open kitchen window. I placed my phone on the polished meeting table. I thought I'd imagined it. I pressed play. The room filled with familiar voices. "Don't tell Alicia until after closing." Vanessa laughed. "She'll never know she paid for a house she doesn't own." Then my mother's voice. "By the time she finds out, Vanessa's name will already be on the deed." The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Not even the real estate agent. Olivia quietly closed the closing folder. Dad lowered his head. Vanessa looked ready to scream. Mom reached for my hand. "Alicia, sweetheart, you don't understand." I stepped back. "No, you don't understand." I opened the folder I'd brought. I spent last night going through 7 years of bank records. I slid several pages across the table. I counted every transfer. Mom didn't even look at them. Dad did. His face lost what little color it had left. $214,870. I said the number slowly. "So, tell me." I looked at each of them. Which emergency was real? No answer. The roof. Silence. Dad's back treatment. Silence. Vanessa's car that was taken back. Nothing. The business loan. No one spoke. The family vacation you told me was cancelled because money was tight. Vanessa looked away. I already knew the answer. I paid for that trip, too, didn't I? Mom finally burst into tears. We never meant for it to go this far. I couldn't help laughing. Not because it was funny. Because it was hard to believe. You mean almost $600,000 wasn't far enough? Vanessa slammed both hands onto the table. Fine. Everyone jumped. You want the truth. She pointed at me. You've always had everything. I blinked. Everything. You had the good job. I worked for it. You had money. I saved it. You could afford to help. I chose to help. She laughed bitterly. You were supposed to take care of us. The words echoed around the room. Marcus quietly leaned back in his chair. He didn't need to say anything. Vanessa had just admitted everything. Mom grabbed her arm. Stop talking. But Vanessa couldn't. You always act like you're better than everyone because you're responsible. I never said that. You didn't have to. She pointed toward the window. That house should have been mine anyway. I looked at her calmly. Then you should have bought one. The real estate agent finally spoke. I think this meeting is over. Olivia nodded. Without valid funding approval, we cannot go forward. She gathered the closing documents. This deal is officially stopped. Mom stood up so quickly that her chair tipped backward. You can't do this. Olivia met her eyes. I didn't. She glanced toward me. The buyer did. As everyone started collecting their things, Dad stopped beside me. For a moment, I thought he might say sorry. Instead, he sighed. You've embarrassed this family. I stared at him. No, I said quietly. You embarrassed this family the moment you decided your younger daughter deserved a house that someone else paid for. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear Vanessa crying. Mom arguing with the real estate agent. Dad demanding another meeting. None of it mattered anymore. I had finally stopped paying for their lies. As Marcus held the door open, he smiled. You know what the best part is? What? You didn't beat them. I frowned. I didn't. He shook his head. They beat themselves. I looked back one last time. The retirement house was still there. Beautiful. Peaceful. Exactly as I'd imagined. The only difference was that it no longer belonged in my family's future. And for the first time in years, neither did I. 5 months later, I bought a home. Not for my parents. For myself. It wasn't as large as the retirement house. It didn't need to be. Every room stood for something I'd almost lost. My freedom. My peace. My future. I also learned what happened after the closing fell apart. My parents had already sold their old house expecting to move into the retirement home. When the purchase failed, they had nowhere to go. They rented a small apartment while trying to fix the damage they'd created. Vanessa was forced to move in with them. For the first time in her adult life, she had to pay her own bills. A few months later, I received one final letter, not asking for money, not demanding forgiveness, just a short handwritten note from my father. It said, "We spent years teaching you that family always comes first. We never realized we'd also taught ourselves to put you last." I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and locked it away. Some lessons arrive too late to fix what they've broken, but they can still remind us why boundaries matter. Today, my garden is finally beginning to bloom. Every morning, I sit on my back porch with a cup of coffee, listening to birds instead of excuses. The greatest home I ever built wasn't the one I almost gave away. It was the life I finally chose to keep for myself. If Alicia's story reminded you that kindness should never come at the cost of your own future, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories where truth, courage, and accountability win, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next unforgettable story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.